Okay, everyone. Good morning. We will start this session. So, firstly, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Asep Saipullah. So, I am from Geological Engineering Study Program, Faculty of Earth Sciences and Technology. So, this session is in the room 2. So, I will be accompanied by Dr. Maya Fitrianti. So, she already here. So we will have 8 presenter divided by 2 session. So the first session there will be 4 speaker, and then continue by the session 2 will be the chair will be Miss Maya Fitrianti. So we will go to the first session. Dr. Maya, are you ready?
Yes, Pak.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
so I will explain a little bit about the rule of this session. The first, we will invite every presenter, so it's one by one. So you already have the book, so we will follow this book, the 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 presentation. So so each presenter will have 7-minute presentations and 3 minutes for questions. So if you have a question directly to the presenter on the time, so you might raise your hand or write down in the chat box. Otherwise, we will wait until the end of the session. So we will collect all the questions and then we will discuss together. So this session is will be talk about mostly related with the earth sciences and engineering. So let's start our this session with the first speaker. The first speaker is Mr. Eddie Wijanarko. Uh, Mr. Eddie, are you ready?
Yeah, already, Pak
Uh,
Abdullah.
Thank you. So please share your screen and then we will start your presentations. Please. Good.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies
Waalaikumsalam
and
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
gentlemen. I want to say thanks for the opportunity to deliver our research entitled Business Study in Atambua, West Timor, Indonesia from Gravity Data that is supported by Lemikes and our supervisor in ITP, that is Pak Prihadi, Pak Warsa, and Pak Hendra Gandis from ITB. And first, next. And this is the outline of our presentation. The first is introduction, then data and method, towards visual and finally, but not least, is conclusion. Next. Introduction. Our research located in Atambua and its surrounding area West Timor, Indonesia, and its location in the Timor Island is well known, has complex geological data because it's a product of collision in the former tectonic state. It also a result of subduction and collide among of 3 plates, that is Australian plate, Eurasian plate, and Pacific plates. But however, in the Timor Island, subsurface data or geophysical data is still limited, and currently geophysical data provided by Zhang and al. 2021, but here the scale is still limited in the crustal and upper most mantle, and also spatial resolution also limited. So here the objective of our study is to delineate more detailed scale, that is a sedimentary scale. So we have delineated of the area both laterally and vertically based on the gravity data. Next. Please next. Please next page. Next page. Yeah, thank you. Before. Previously. Yeah, thanks. Previously. Previously. Yeah, in the fourth page 4, data and method. Next. Yeah, here. Previously. Page 4 is. Yeah, here. And then data and methods, we have actually 900 point of gravity data that space between point was around 500 to 500 to 3 kilometer, and length is 2.5 to 10 kilometer, and we have 3 different stage of method, that is acquisition. That include design survey, gravimeter, and differential GPS measurement. Then we process it to removing tidal effect, drift correction, and we calculate theoretical and normal gravity, and then applied correction of free air, Bouquet and terrain to obtain the CPA or complete Bouquet anomaly map. And then we append it with radially spectral, and then we have a residual map that we use it to delineate basin and determine the lineament, and finally we use it to surface modeling. Next. Yeah, this is the result of gravity measurement that we have in the left side. Is CPR map that dominated by red in the west northern area. They indicate solar basement, and toward to central and southeast, we have lower gravity anomaly that indicate a thick sediment that supports to para-autochthon sediment indicate from that gravity data. And the right side, we have a residual map that more showing a slower feature of geology. Here, we clearly have two basin in the northwest and the middle, and we also clearly seen the boundary of the gravity anomaly that reveal lineament. The trend is southwest northeast. Next. And this is the modeling of the gravity data in the line A, B, and C that represent the feature of geology. We have 3 different layers. The first layer in the base is basement that indicated by blue with rho is density 3, and in the middle is para-autochthon, and the most upper is alluvial and Bubonaro formation. Then next. And after all, we have conclude that analysis of gravity data in Atambua could determine the deeper geological structure, represent and basin configuration. Second, the lineament research in the rest area that is southwest northeast that divide Timor into 3 parts. That is northwestern part, central part, and southeastern part. And gravity data analysis here have proposed a newly boundary part of basin in Timor. The determination by residual map has a positive correlation with what Colton had proposed before based on surface geology, and there is also found a thick preclusional sediment in lane A, B, and C that associated with former Northwest Australian Pacific Margin, and the last is the reset profile location where exploration of hydrocarbon future. Okay, next. Next, and I would like to say thank to Lemikes and Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, and also P2M Research that grant to Pak Indra Kandis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edi Wijanarko. This is a nice presentation and also the time. So everyone, if you have question or something to discuss, please raise your hand. Otherwise, you might write down in the chat box. I think it's better if we discuss following the presenter, because sometimes if we collect the question in the last, so sometimes we miss information. Okay, please, if you have question. Okay, waiting for the question, Pak Edi. So I have a question for you. So you show us the lines of the observation point. So in those lines, so you saw there is a dense point and also the rare points. Could you explain why there are kind of the different lag, different distance of the measurement in the field?
Okay, maybe we can show that slide show in page that present this page in layout of in page
Number
4,
I think.
4, yeah,
Yes.
page number 4. Okay, thank you, Pak Asep Saifullah, for that question. Actually, the design survey based on consideration of geology. So before we went to field, we discussed about the configuration of survey or gravity design. That's actually in line A and surround it. This is have a multis complex that composition is metamorphic rock also and surrounded volcanic rock that mixed with sedimentary rock. So we want to make sure that boundary of the body of volcanic or metamorphic can be determined more accurate there. If we compare in above sea or surrounded of sea in the west or northern area, that in geological map and also analyzed previously from many paper or so, it's more homogeneous than in A or B area. So thereby we design it survey like that. Thank Ms. Pak Asep Saifullah.
Okay, thank you, Pak Edi, for your explanation. Anyone? We have 1 minute left for Pak Edi if you have questions. Okay, I think there is no more questions. Thank you, Pak Edi.
Thank you very much, Pak Asep Abdullah, and thank you very much, Ibu Fidela.
Thank you, and we will move to the second presenter. Okay, everyone. So the second presenter is Mr. Waskito Aji. Are you ready, Mr. Waskito?
Okay, Pak Asep, may I ask one question first?
Please.
Okay, in the slide I submit, I have attached the narrative record, so it just can play, or I should represent it.
Okay, let's try. Committee, could you help us? So, Pak Waskito already sent the voice. Please prepare. So if the narration is good, work well, so you not need to present only discussions.
Yeah.
um, maybe the voice should be share voice.
I think we cannot hear the audio from the
I see.
presentation yet.
So maybe direct presentation is better, Bu Ma. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe committee have a difficulty to make voice to us. So Pak Wiskito, so please maybe we can start your presentation lively.
Okay. I would like present our research about simulation of time-lapse microgravity in Bandung area using surface and subsurface data. And this is the outline. We will I think the voice we can hear.
Yeah, we can hear it in the beginning, but now it's stopped, I think.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Here I would like to present our research about simulation of time-lapse microgravity in Bandung area using surface and subsurface data. Next. And this is the outline. We will start with introduction and we will finish with the conclusion. Okay, for the introduction, groundwater is important in urban area, and the monitoring of extraction of the groundwater is important to mitigate the impacts such as land subsidence and water crisis. Time-lapse microgravity or TLM can be used for monitoring the subsurface condition. TLM is non-invasive and can be done in relatively fast time. In this study, we will try to simulate the TLM anomaly in Bandung area based on the data of subsidence and groundwater level data. We move to the methodology. So the principle of time-lapse microgravity is we conduct repeated measurement of microgravity to observe the change in geometry or the density in the subsurface. For the simulation process, we will use rectangular prism approach to model the subsurface condition. This next. Okay, and this is the rectangular prism approach. So if we have the body shaped like a prism in the subsurface, we can know the response of gravity in the surface by using this equation. Okay, this is the scenario for simulating the anomaly of TLM due to the subsidence case. So this is the figure of the scenario. We simulate the subsurface condition by the collection of prism, with the center of the prism is the observation station. And then the subsidence is modeled by the decreasing the height of the prism from the initial condition. So in the location of subsidence, there will be a density redistribution. This makes the density of the location getting greater. And we can compute the TLM response by calculate the gravity response in initial condition and the response in final condition, and then we can subtract it, the final minus the initial response condition. Okay, and here is the simulation due to change in groundwater level. So we use a similar scenario. We assume there is no elevation change, and we model the subsurface condition by the collection of prism. The top and the bottom of the prism is the groundwater level in initial and in final condition. And for simulating the density, we use this equation for bulk density calculation. And after we get the simulation, we can calculate the TLM response by doing a forward modeling. Okay, now we will talk about the synthetic test. The first, we will talk about subsidence simulation. So, we illustrate we have section of gravity measurement in the flat topography in the initial condition, and we conduct the repeated measurement, and in the final condition, in some location, there occurs subsidence, so the elevation is getting lower, and the density of the location of the subsidence getting greater. From this situation, we simulate the anomaly. In the initial condition, the gravity anomaly is flat, and in the final condition, when subsidence has occurred, in location of the subsidence, the anomaly is getting greater. Okay, and then we will talk about the simulation of groundwater change. So in this situation, we will have the groundwater level in the initial condition is flat, and then in the final condition, there is change occur. In some location, the groundwater level getting rise, and in other
Committee, we could hear the voice.
maybe I will try to continue.
Yes.
So in the next condition, the groundwater level change in some location getting rise and in other location getting fall. So if we try to simulate the TLM response in the location that the groundwater level getting rise, the anomaly is positive and vice versa. In other location, the groundwater level getting fall. In the rising groundwater area, the TLM response getting positive and vice versa. Okay, now we move to the field data application. So we will try to simulate the TLM response due to subsidence data and groundwater level data in Bandung area. The elevation data we use from GPS Geodetic Survey from ITB Geodetic Scientific Research Group conducted in 2010 until 2016. And for the groundwater level data is from digitizing the research map from Taufik with time period of 2010 until 2015. Okay, now we will first talk about subsidence case in Bandung area. And this is the map of the location of gravity station and subsidence station. And this is the summary of the measurement of subsidence. So in the 6 years, the rate of subsidence is up to 0.3 meter per year and located in the western part. And in some location, there is uplift up to 0.09 meter per year. Okay, and here is the result of the simulation. From the simulation process, the highest TLM anomaly for the 6 years is up to 70 microgal in the location of subsidence, and the lowest TLM anomaly in the location of uplift is up to minus 15 microgal. And if we doing some cross plot about the TLM anomaly and the change in elevation, we get information that every 1 meter elevation change, it is estimated roughly 85 microgal TLM response. Okay, now we move to the groundwater simulation, and this is the map of the area. So from this information, we get that the lowest groundwater elevation is in the southern area, is about 600 meter, and the highest groundwater elevation is in the northern area with the elevation up to 1000 meter. And then from the simulation, we can know the rate of change of the groundwater and the TLM response. So this is the map of the rate of the change, and this is the map of the TLM response. The highest groundwater increase up to 3 meter per year is in the southern part. TLM response is up to 148 microgal, and the highest groundwater decrease is up to 2 meter per year in the northern part, with TLM response up to minus 133 microgal. Okay, for the conclusion, the program has success to simulate the TLM response caused by subsidence and change in groundwater level In period of 6 years, the largest subsidence in Bandung area produce anomaly up to 70 microgal, and the scattered uplift produce anomaly about minus 15 microgal. The change in elevation of 1 meter will produce about 85 microgal TLM response. In period of 5 years, the largest groundwater level rise resulted anomaly up to 148 microgal, and the largest groundwater level decrease produced anomaly up to minus 133 microgal. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Waskito, for your presentations. Everyone, so if you have question or comment due to Mr. Waskito presentation, please. Bu Maya, do you have question?
I have one question actually,
Okay,
Pak. Yeah.
please.
Okay, so thank you, Waskito. I probably missed it in your presentation, Pak Waskito, but how do you validate your simulation with the actual condition of the groundwater in the field?
Okay, we do not in the stage of validate with the real measurement of the gravity, but we just for use the conclusion, the program has groundwater data. We use groundwater data and try to forward modeling to what to see how is the response of the LM from them. So it's just the simulation stage, I think.
But do you have any plan like to validate it with the actual condition maybe in the later study?
Yeah, in the next maybe we can simulate it in the real data and we try to validate it so it can be used in the real measurement, I think.
Okay, thank you, Pak Waskito.
Thank you, Bu Maya. So I think I agree with Bu Maya, Mr. Waskito, because there are 3 parameters you have to consider. The first one is groundwater change, and the second one is subsidence, and the third one is gravity change. So so you have to match. I mean to confirm that one parameter is related with others too. So it's maybe a little bit difficult how to prove that the gravity is caused by the sea level, groundwater level change, and also related with subsidence.
Yeah.
But it is challenge. It's challenge. It's a good opportunity to you to continue your study. Okay, thank you, Mr. Waskito. I think time is over, so we will proceed to another presenter. So the third presenter is Mr. Yoga Alpha Christian. Mr. Yoga, are you already there? I will check the participants.
Okay.
Maya,
maybe he's not present today, Pak Asep, yeah, because I couldn't see his name on the participant.
Okay, thank you. So we will continue to the next presenter, right?
Yeah, I think we can continue.
So I call Mr. Fikriansyah Ershad.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it clear that my voice, because it's a little bit noise here?
I hear some kind of the echo.
Okay,
so,
echo. Is it still echo?
No, it's good.
It's still okay. Okay. Can we start it, sir?
Yes, you have 7 minutes to presentation.
Okay. I would like to present my research about spatial distribution of radon gas concentrations by considering the land name densities extracted from dam digital elevation model at Patuha Geothermal Field, West Java, Indonesia. This research is collaborating about the ITB and Kyoto, how to start and find the steam spot in PGF. Where is my frequency research as the first, and my first supervisor is Muhammad Nur Heriawan, and the second is Irwan Iskandar. Okay, next. Okay, the content that I would like present is 5. One is a research background, location of study area, material and methods, result and discussion, and the last is conclusions. Next. Okay. About the research background, we need a large increase in geothermal generations in Indonesia especially, and we want to expect that Patuha Geothermal Field, PGF, to contribute the meeting high energy demands because its power generation capacity is about 120 until 200 megawatt. One of the most serious issues that hinders these enhancements is the cost of exploration drilling, because we know that the cost of exploration in geothermal field is very expensive. It's not cheap. The third, a large number of exploration wells need to be drilled at the great depth, but a small number of wells successfully reach reservoirs in general. So how can we reduce the drilling cost and increase the success ratio? In this research, we could development of technology by a combination of remote sensing, mathematical, geology, geochemistry, geophysics, and mineralogy for identifying a steam spot which is suitable for the location of production wells. Steam spots here, a portion of probably composed of permeable fracture with much amount of thermal water and steam and enables large long-term power generation. Next. And the problem at present about this background, integration of each technology to like steam spot has not established. So this research focus on the concern about existence of continuous and permeable fracture, such as probably on the topography, and we use secondary data like digital elevation model about topography. And next, the connection between near surface and reservoir by fracture and large steam amount. In here, radon concentration is measured by RAD7. Later, I will explain that, and then we will find a correlation between radon concentration and permeable fractures. And the point number 3 and 4 is reservoir temperature is estimated by geothermal method is just the long and the large for the concern, and the presence of hydrothermal by high mixture ratio of alter mineral generated at high temperature suggests constant access gas and fluid from reservoir to surface. And next. Okay, the location of study area. The PGF is an active geothermal area located in approximately 37 kilometers of southwest Bandung City. That PGF has a vapor-dominant reservoir. Manifestation is available and much in the north. That PGF is around 9 kilometers. That the PGF is a young volcanic complex surrounded by several older volcanoes like Mount Patuha, Mount Puncak Lawang, Mount Uruk, and Mount Tikukur. In here, we can see for the local geology, there are 15 of the lithology types, and almost overall is about andesites. And this is there are 9 major fault that we can see on the maps, and this is to indicate the direction of lineaments later. Next. Hydrothermal system, I will explain just a short. There are 3 components that to make a hydrothermal system. There are heat source, reservoir, and a permeable impermeable layer. But in this research, to modeling about the permeable zones, we use radon data that were measured for the radon that ascend from the subsurface. And next, material emitters. Radon gas concentration were measured from 17 shallow drill holes using radon detector RAD7, and this is about the schema. whereas the radon was measured using using RAD7, and then this unit is setting to 5 minutes when collect in the field. Okay, next. Okay, this method using automatic Linnemann extractions. You can see on this slide where the illumination direction is setting into models 0 until 100 and Linnemann density about the grouping. The estimation using geostatistical method, ordinary kriging and collocated co-kriging, because OCA serve to estimate the value at unknown point with the region using semi-parallelogram. Next. Result and discussion. The result from this Linnemann extraction by STA show that in the combinations, two dominant directions in north 770 east and north 312 east. Next. Okay, the Linnemann density, the grid says about 250 meters times 250 times meters that we can show that the product of this output is a maps that show the Linnemans that we can divide in three: Linnemann frequency density, Linnemann length density, and intersection density. Next. About the statistic Linnemann density, this is I tried to make it smoothing by ordinary kriging, and we can show that all the distribution data is in the positive skew that have a low value. And next. Okay, this is about the data, the 70 data drill hole from radon that I divide into parameter statistic, mean, median, quartile 1, quartile 3, interquartile, and maximum. And we can show that the distribution of data in radon is populated into data, and the semi-parallelogram for this data used by Lex separation in 700 meters. And next. Okay, the result of the ordinary kriging show that the highest radon concentration is distributed on the north. We can see on TTN1, TTN3, and this is suitable with the COK estimation. Next. This is the correlation that I made estimation by COK using LFD and LLD by block size 50 times 50 that show that the highest correlation is on the LFD 0.4 and estimated that constant that show in the north TTN1 and TTN2 is still has the concentration highest radon, because we can see there are so many manifestation that control maybe about this structure from the zones. Okay, next. For the validations, I made comparisons for estimation and measurement that correlation R is 0.5. Then, and I know this is also immensely small or low because it has to be checked again because the cross plot of radon gas concentration between the COK is so small. Okay, thank you. Next, for the conclusions. This study aimed to detect permeable zone using combination of point data, radon gas concentrations that the major or dominant alignment direction is north 70 east and 315 east. That the highest correlation that show by the LFD and radon data is about 0.4 between radon and lineament density. Then that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Fikriansyah. So first, I would like to encourage, is there any question from the participants joining us today? Okay, let me check the chat column. So please, you may ask any question that you have for the presenters. Okay, so I think while waiting for the question, Pak Fikri, in the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned about cost reduction for the drilling, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yes.
one of the background of your studies. So maybe can you please explain a little bit like how much cost reduction that will be achieved using this technique, like in your opinion?
About this research, this technique that used, we can minimize about the cost because we could find the steam spot of the geothermal field by using data digital elevation model. In order to, we didn't know about the risk about that drilling that we pulled down. Okay, maybe. It may take a cost a lot, but how to reduce this cost by interpretation that we can use on the near surface using digital elevation model. And we can see the correlations. Where is the measure of lineament directions, and then we can pretend, and then we can make a covered areas is so small, and then this is about the preliminary explorations, because that's all.
Okay. So is this method or your study has been implemented, for example, for the geothermal company or maybe LA? Okay, hello, Pak Fikri.
This study. Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
yeah, hello, Pak Fikri.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, we can hear your voice, Pak Fikri. Okay.
Okay.
So my question was, has this study been implemented or is still in preliminary study?
About this study integrated with the other survey methods we use. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear your voice, Pak Fikri.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay, then is there any more questions from the audience? Okay. Yeah, I think there's one question. Someone raised his hand. Okay, Pak Edi Wijanarko. Please, Pak Edi.
Okay, thank you. My question is there a general trend of random distribution in geothermal field, or it's just a particular case in your location? Thank you.
Could you repeat again? Because
okay. Is there any general rule of distribution of radon, the mechanism, what the cause, and so on about a geothermal field, or is in this case is just applied in your case in your field? Thank you.
okay, I get it. For this, just in case, in this study, the radon collect by the spot in the near of manifestations, and it's the first interpretation about the major, the fall major that we serve. This is how we use grid size in the scale and determine how to determine that this sorry.
Pak Fikri, yes.
Okay. About the consider about this study, how to we collect that radon. I have still not yet to compare with the another study, but in this study that I have done is the radon is measured by the intersections of the interpretation that we call first estimation that in the preliminary. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Pak Fikri. So for Pak Waskito, do you still have any following questions? Oh, I'm sorry, for Pak Edi Wijanarko.
Enough, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Edi Wijanarko. Okay, so if there's no more questions, thank you so much, Pak Fikri.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, so thank you to all the first four presenters for sharing your wonderful works to us today. And I think we can just continue with the next presentation because I see some of the presenters already join us today. Okay, so the next presenters is Bapak Ilham Arisbaya. Okay, so Pak Ilham. Okay. So Pak Ilham, you may please start your presentations.
Should I share from? Okay.
Oh, okay. I think the committee, the organizer, can you please share Pak Ilham presentations? Ibu Fidela, can you please help?
Yes. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Oh, it's okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the time and opportunity given to me to present our preliminary study. The presentation will be entitled An Attempt to Depict Deformation Under a Young Volcanic Covered Area Using 3D Gravity Data Inversion in Southern Garut, Indonesia. Okay, next please.
Coba sih. Nggak pasti kita aja.
I'm sorry, I think I have sent wrong. Not by no one, but I hope it's okay. I guess okay. Let's move on. Okay, this is the standard form of the presentation outline. I started with introduction, data and method, and then continued by result and discussion, and close with the tentative conclusion. Next, please. Okay, as we know that Java Island is part of Sunda Banda Arc, and it is one of the most active seismic zone on Earth. And Izam and colleagues in 2020 has reminded us that in the last 140 years, many earthquakes have occurred in this western part of Sunda Banda Arc. And besides facing threat from interplate earthquakes from subduction, Java also facing earthquake from active faults, and earthquake from active faults often causing a great devastation, as we've seen recently in Palu. It is due to their shallow depth and their close proximity to human activities. And here in Western Java, we have three major active faults, well-known active faults. It is Cimandiri Fault, Lembang Fault, and Baribis Fault. Next, please. Okay, in 2018, Supendi and friends saw us a cluster of shallow low magnitude earthquake forming a lineament, a northeast-southwest lineament in southern Garut, and by the location of the cluster, it is hard to correlate it with the well-known active faults. And out of these events, there are two of these have reported to be destructive, and it is damaging buildings. And the writer interpret these events as indication of an active fault, and the name of Garcella fault is proposed by Supendi and friends. And in the last few days, we have the most recent shallow earthquake there with a low magnitude earthquake. Okay, next please. Our knowledge about these interpreted active faults is still very limited, and to date there was no surface trace about this active fault. And in this area, we have a very intensive quaternary volcanism, and we have Mount Papandayan, Mount Guntur, and Mount Cikuray in this area, and also this area is home to three geothermal fields. It is Wayang Windu, Darajat, and Kamojang. And from the regional geological map, we see that the structure is mainly has northeast southwest, but the detailed geometry and the activity status yet is still unknown. And in Java, where the deformation, where the young volcanic products dominated the surface, it is very possible that the deformation surface be covered by the young volcanic products. Okay, next please. However, with this circumstance, we have also data from the geothermal exploration activity that may help our understanding about the regional tectonic framework of the area. The deformation in the Kamojang, Darajat, and Wayang Windu show a dominant structure in relatively northeast southwest, and this northeast southwest is interpreted as the basement structure pattern in the West Java by Sri Budiani et al. And the superficial structure is more diverse with more dominance in north-south. And this is the map of DEM that show the Garcella. It is located in the long approximately 50 kilometers alignment from that span from Sumedang to Garut. And this may be some hints for us to study this this area. Okay, next. Next, please. Okay, this is maybe just okay. This is the data that we have digitized. It is taken from the Bugis anomaly map of Java Island that has been discussed by Untung and Sato in 1978. And we see that the 2016 and 2017 earthquake is located around the low gravity anomaly. And for the 2017 earthquake, it is situated at the local gravity high that separate two low gravity anomaly. And the low gravity anomaly itself is tend to be elliptical in shape, with the main axis direction relatively northeast southwest. Next, please. Okay, just to remind us that the Bugis anomaly is a regional anomaly, which is the deep sources, and the residual anomaly, which is the shallow sources. So there are many techniques we can use to decompose Bugis anomaly, and each of it has advantage and disadvantage. and additional effort is required to compare these techniques, whether which one is give the best represent geology of our interest area. In this study, we use 3 techniques. It is transsurface, butterworth filtering, and upward continuation. Okay, next please. Okay, to further extract subsurface information from this dataset, we have done 3D inversion modeling using GraBlocks. And this is the following is the inversion parameter, which is the grid model discretization. And then we use the flat top grid just to simplify the modeling. This flat top grid at 1,400 meter using an average elevation. And we have used the regional anomaly from upward continuation as the base anomaly. Okay. Okay. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Please, next slide. Okay, next, please.
Okay, I think the presentation time is already up.
Oh,
Ilham Arisbaya, I'm
sorry.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, it's okay. Maybe we can discuss further in question and answer session. But thank you so much, Pak Ilham, for the presentation. So please, audience, I encourage you to send your questions for Pak Ilham. Is there any questions? Okay, let me check from the chat.
I'm sorry, I'm not listening the time.
Okay, that's okay, Pak Ilham. So you just want to make sure that the rest of the presenter will have also adequate time to present.
Okay.
But please, if anyone later have question for Pak Ilham, we can also still discuss in the remaining time. So there's a question for me first,
Okay.
Pak Ilham. Okay, so can you please explain like briefly how maybe we can detect earthquake using your data? Like, can it be applied for detecting earthquake?
It's
or the probability of earthquake, yeah.
Okay, with this data, we are trying to depict the subsurface structure, which may correlate with the mechanism that generate earthquake. So we don't detect the earthquake itself, but we detect the subsurface structure, which may correlate with the earthquake. Maybe that's
okay. So any reason or specific reason why you done this in Garut as a subject? Yeah, or maybe I missed it from your presentation. But
okay, it's so it's there are three active vital object here, which is 3 geothermal fields, which generate electricity. Of course, it is will have disrupt the electricity to the connection from Java and Bali, right? If there is a disruption to this geothermal, and we have to prepare if it's there's something about this these faults. We have no idea about this fault because it's reported just about a couple years ago.
Okay. So I think your study will be very useful for the geothermal field as well. Yeah. Okay. So. Right. So I think we have another question from Muhammad Ilham. Yeah. Okay, please, Pak Ilham.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Pak Ilham. Can you explain more about the result of your study? Because maybe you missed the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
So actually, my result. This is just a tentative preliminary study. Then we haven't found the specific mechanism related to the seismic activity in Southern Garut, but our result has indicate a strong relationship about with the tectonic and magmatic activities in Southern Garut area, and we will explore this in the next stage. We will use the magnetotelluric, and we hope we will see something interesting in this area. So maybe this is just the preliminary research. Maybe.
Okay, thank you, Pak Ilham. Okay. Pak Muhammad Ilham, do you have any following questions?
Okay, that's enough. Thank you so much.
Okay. Right. Thank you so much once again, Pak Ilham Arisbaya, for the wonderful presentations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so yes, you're welcome, Pak. Okay, so before we move on to the next presenters, I will once again remind you about the rule of the presentation. So each presenter will have around 7 minutes to present. I know that the time is not a lot, but I hope that we can talk more later in the Q&A sessions. So 7 minutes to present, and then we will have around 3 to 4 minutes for question and answers. All right, so now we can move on to the next presenter, Bapak Muhammad Ilham. Okay, so Pak Muhammad Ilham, would you like to share your own screen, or?
Can I share my own screen?
Yeah, you may, please.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Is it already be seen?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
okay.
We can see your slide.
Okay. Can I start? Okay.
Yes, you may.
Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Muhammad Ilham Fatoni, and I am from Geological Engineering Master Program, Institut Teknologi Bandung. And the title of our presentation is Identification of High Permeability Zone in Geothermal Field based on magnetic permeability and dielectric permittivity derived from SAR polarimetric with in-situ measurement. And this is the content of our presentation. I'd like to start by understanding what is high permeability zone, specifically in geothermal area. By definition, high permeability zone is a zone where a rock medium has a better ability to pass fluids than the surrounding area. And the permeability might come from the rock pores or geological structures such as faults and fracture. And how it forms? Fractures may develop due to rock deformation during tectonic activity such as folding and faulting, and it may also develop during the intrusion of igneous rock into the surrounding area, into the surrounding rock. And how it works? Thermal fluids migrate from the reservoir to the surface through the permeable zone, then it appears as manifestation of the subsurface system. So it controls the presence of geothermal features on the surface. A permeable zone could also act as a recharge area where meteoric water could enter the cycle of geothermal system. In Kono show a close spatial relationship between permeable zone and high temperature geothermal system. It has been proven in many geothermal exploitation that the high permeability zone is a significant drilling target to find productive wells. High permeability zone is often analyzed through lineament density, or we often say FFD, fault fracture density, which is the number of lineament pattern present in an area. At the same time, erosion and deposition of mineral carried by thermal fluids may cover faults and fractures on the surface. So in the study, we intend to identify high permeability zone with another approach, which is by looking at the physical parameters of the surface. In this case, we use dielectric permittivity and magnetic permeability to detect high permeability zone in geothermal area. Dielectric permittivity is the degree which a particular medium resists the flow of electricity, divided by the degree to which free space resists such a flow. It is also defined as the ratio of the electric displacement to the field strength. Magnetic permeability is a property that allows magnetic lines of force to pass through the material. In short, it can also be defined as magnetization capability. In this study, we identify high permeability zone by its physical parameter, like I said. Thermal fluid activity in the high permeability zone, it could affect the physical parameter of the rock medium in contact with it. In this study, we obtained physical parameter in the high permeability zone, which is we derive it from parametric synthetic aperture radar images, and the penetration of the penetration depth capability of radar signal, it will get better with increasing the wavelength. And this allows high penetration in the L band than in C band or X band, as we could see in this figure right here. The penetration of SAR signal is essential because, as we know, most of the thermal area in Indonesia is located around heavily vegetated area. In this study, we also acquire direct measurement as a validation to the physical parameters we acquire from SAR images. The research study is located around Kamojang Guntur geothermal field, and magnetic permeability we acquire from direct measurement is we use a ferromaster magnetic permeability meter instrument, and measurements are made on a surface that has been perforated as deep as 15 to 20 centimeter to remove local noise that could come from grass or small trash, to make sure that we acquire the ground physical parameters. And in this study, we use ALOS2 SAR images, and the images were corrected by multi-looking, radiometric, and terrain correction. And the final image could be seen in this figure. And to obtain magnetic permeability and dielectric permittivity from our images, we use magnetic and dielectric from polarimetric synthetic aperture radar, or MDP and MDPSAR methods. And the process of MDPSR carry out to obtain the solution to the reflectivity equation of the material using SPMB, small perturbation model of backscattering, as could be seen in equation 1 and 2, and equation 1 and 2, and then are modified into a simpler form as in equation 3 and 4. And here's the result of MDPSR. The left is dielectric permittivity and right is magnetic permeability. And the coherence test between μR, or magnetic permeability from satellite, and from direct measurement show a coefficient of determination variable 0.82, and the data distribution show a reasonably high linear correlation of the 95 data pairs. And also, based on the equation, we make a residual histogram, and the residual and histogram shows a normal distribution with a maximum frequency values around 0. And the histogram of residual with a normal distribution, it shows a good estimate of the coefficient in a regression model. It shows that the parameter we obtain from MDPSR have a relatively high accuracy against the actual condition. And this is the result in the Kamojang, the high permeability zone characterized by high dielectric permittivity and low magnetic permeability relative to surrounding area. So in this case, we mark area with high dielectric permittivity, which is in this figure marked by blue color, and we overlay with those zones with high magnetic permeability with red color. And we found that those area is matched with non-manifestation as in Kamojang area. Based on reference value on the Kamojang area, we identified at least there are 5 possible permeable zones, as could be seen in the figure. And here's the conclusion of our study. The coherence test between μR obtained from MDPSR and in situ measurement showed a coefficient determination achieved 0.82. The parameter obtained from the MDPSR inversion method has a reasonably high level accuracy, and high permeability zone characterized by high dielectric permeability and low magnetic permeability, and high anomaly was obtained in the electric permittivity and low anomaly in the magnetic permeability at manifestation Kamojang and Guntur, and we have identified 5 possible permeable zones. And this is the reference. Thank you so much for presentation.
Okay, thank you, Pak Muhammad Ilham, for the presentations. So now we will move on to questions and answers. Any questions from the audience? So you may please raise your hand to ask questions, or you can also type your questions in the chat column. Okay. Okay, so while waiting for the questions, Pak Ilham, so can you please explain once again how the SAR or the synthetic aperture radar detect magnetic permeability and the electric permittivity? So maybe you can explain more detail how about that method.
So our method is magnetic and dielectric from polarimetric synthetic aperture radar, or MDPSR. It is based on a small perturbation model of backscattering. The equation of this equation contains a physical parameter of the surface, which is relative dielectric permittivity and relative magnetic permeability. So we take that that physical parameters from this equation from the equation of the signal. That's it.
Okay. So is there any the image of the tools that you use in your presentation, maybe to give a better image to the audience? Oh, okay. So this is.
This is the instrument that we use to acquire field measurement, and then the data we get from field measurement we use to validate the result of our satellite method, MDPSR method.
Okay, so this method is very common in this field of study, right?
Recently, it's not really common, but recently it's progressing to be more accurate.
Okay. Have you ever done another like field study besides in Kamojang Guntur geothermal field?
No,
with this method.
This is my first time.
The first time. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Pak Muhammad Ilham. Any more questions from the audience? Okay, I see this. Okay, Pak Edi Wijanarko, please, Pak Edi.
Thank you. My question is on the vertical resolution and maximum depth that can be reached by each method, by SAR and by the land measurement.
Okay, thank you so much for the question, Pak Edi. So the vertical depth, it is relatively shallow if we compare it to another geophysical method such as MT or anything else. But we could detect it in a relatively wide area because we use a satellite with an image with a resolution of 10 meters, so it's quite detailed. So it is more better in horizontally and then for vertically. So it is more on the surface. For the depth, we didn't really study it because there are many factors that could affect the depth that we acquire.
Okay, thank you. Any more question? Any following up question from Pak Edi?
Okay. Is from based on your measurement, it is not achieve or obtain any certain depth that you get. A certain depth might be 1 meter or 5 meter or other certain depth.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Yes, based on your measurement or your analysis from SAR or from the land measurement, from the frame measurement from the tool, did you not get a certain depth, maybe 2 meter or 5 meter or other, or it's just qualitatively?
It's to know this. It is many factors that could affect the instrument. I mean, the wavelength of the SAR, it could penetrate differently through different medium. For the, as we see in this image, it could penetrate in better in dry alluvium, and if it vegetation, we could only get the surface, and if it is a glacier ice, we could get more depth to it. So it depends on the surface type.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Edi. Is there any more questions? Maybe we can have one more question if there's still a question from audience. Okay, I think no more question for now. Pak Muhammad Ilham, thank you so much for your presentation. So we will move on to the next presenter, but later if you still have question for Pak Ilham, you can still send your questions to the chat column. Okay, once again, thank you so much, Pak Muhammad.
Thank you so
Ilham.
much, Ibu Maya dan Pak Aksat.
All right, so for the next presenter, we will have Ibu Harmita Lestari. Okay, yeah, so Ibu Harmita Lestari from ITB. Okay, would you like to share? We still cannot hear your voice, Bu Harmita. I think we still cannot hear your voice, Bu Harmita. Halo, Bu Harmita. Okay, so I think there's some technical difficulty. We still cannot hear Ibu Harmita voice. Oh, okay.
Yes, can you hear my voice?
Yes, now we can hear your voice, Bu Harmita.
Clear, Bu Maya?
Yes, it's clear.
Thank you. Might I share my own presentation?
Yes, you may share your own presentation. So you will have 7 minutes to present, Bu Harmita, and then we will continue with questions and answer sessions.
Okay, thank you. Please give me a minute to prepare. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please allow me to introduce our paper authors. I am Harmita Lestari from ITB, Dr. Pepen Supendi from BMKG, Professor Dr. Andri Dian Nugraha from ITB, and Bapak Nova Heriandoko from BMKG. Our topic from this presentation is preliminary research, tomography imaging of P-wave velocity structure beneath Kalimantan, Makassar Strait, and Sulawesi using fast marching tomography method. This is our content in this presentation, and the first is introduction. As we can see in the figures 1, the position of the Indonesia is between the continental plate, Australia plate, and Eurasia plate, also the Oceanic plate, Philippine plate, Pacific plate, and Indo-Australia plate. This is impact to the very complex geological structure, also the complex tectonic structure in Indonesia. And this is also impact to our location of the study area, as we can see in the figure 2. And our location study area is in Kalimantan and Sulawesi, also Makassar Strait. Sulawesi, as we know, is the most complex area in Indonesia with complex geological structure, because there are several active faults. Also, there are the subduction zone in the north of Sulawesi, also in the east of Sulawesi. And we can see here is Makassar Strait between the Kalimantan and Sulawesi. And there are also the Valkoro Fault, also the Paternoster Fault, linked between east of Kalimantan and central of Sulawesi. And from the previous study of seismic tomography from Hall and Senonos, successfully imaging the seismic velocity structure beneath Southeast Asia. So in this study, we use P-wave velocity for travel time tomography that can explain the tectonic condition in our study area. Tomography imaging is the geophysical method for imaging 3D structure below the Earth's surface using seismic wave propagation. And tomography imaging, we should have the value of the slowness, which is give us the information about the velocity below the Earth. And this velocity we can get from the inverse solution using the equation 2. And as I said before, we need the seismic wave. And the seismic wave can come from earthquake or a dynamic source as well. In this study, we use the seismic wave from earthquake, like the previous study from Rawlinson et al. 2009. As we can see in figure 2, this is the tomography imaging, for example. And in the flow chart in figure 4, this is the flow chart for tomography inversion. But in our study, we focus to the step called resolution test. This resolution test, we use the method called a checkerboard resolution test because this method can provide an overview and give us information of areas and depth that can be used in tomography inversion. From Nugraha 2021, this is the process from a checkerboard resolution test. The main point is we should know the travel time observation from a forward modeling checkerboard input models and also the travel time calculation from initial seismic velocity model. So we can bring to the tomography inversion process. Our materials and method is we can see in figure in 6. This is our location. We use over 7,000 earthquake data from 5 BMKG seismic stations, and the color show the earthquake depth. Also, the size of the cycles show the size of the magnitude of earthquakes. From this data, we did a fast-merging ray tracing method, and using the initial model from Kenneth et al. And also using the FMTOMO software package. The map in figure 7, we made using GMT. And this is the ray tracing show the propagation of seismic wave from our earthquake data. And this is the result after we do fast-merging tomography method. We do inversion. I'm sorry, we do a checkerboard resolution test also in the inversion. We produce 3 scheme, and the difference between this scheme is the size of the grid. This scheme we got from the learn about the parameter of the tomography, like the velocity grids, interface grids. Also consider the stations, the number of the earthquake, also the smaller distance from our seismic station from the MKG. And let's agree, SEMT has a better resolution of the checkerboard model because the SEM3 can recover our model better if we compare to the SEM1 and SEM2. Because our grid is small here. So the conclusion maybe for now is the small grid is better, give us the resolution for the recovered checkerboard model. And from this checkerboard resolution test, we brought to our inversion step, and we take the 50 kilometers, and after doing tomography inversion, we got the horizontal cross-section of tomography. A red rectangle represents our area that we will interpret further. Why? Because this area can recover our checkerboard. And we can see the area is better in Sulawesi because what? Sulawesi has a very high seismicity. Also, there is many ray paths propagate below the Sulawesi if we compare to Kalimantan. So our concluding remarks is from the cross-section of checkerboard resolution test, the grid with the smaller size, which is SAM3, has better resolution as well as can be recover model input well. And the tomography inversion will be carried out using the input and the grid size based on our checkerboard resolution test in East Kalimantan to the entire of Sulawesi, also the Makassar Strait from the depth 5 kilometers until 150 kilometers. So the next step is we will do inversion step using our input model from recovery checkerboard model. We thank to BMKG for the catalog data, earthquake catalog data, Nick Rawlinson for the software, LPDP scholarship, ITB, and also all the parties who support these studies. This is our references, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ibu Harmita Lestari. Okay, so now we will have a question and answer sessions. Okay, so first question from Pak Asep.
Yes.
Thank you, Bu Maya. And also Ms. Harmita. So this is a good presentation, I think.
Thank you.
So could you show us the result of the tomography?
Yes, of course.
So if we talk about the Makassar Strait, so we have to consider also about the old tectonic. So so maybe you know about the Meratus line.
Yes.
There is all subduction zones extending from the Java to the Kalimantan. Could you show us if there are any trace for this kind of the old subductions in Meratus?
Okay, thank you, Pak Asep, for your question. I will try to answer. Let's see in our figure 12. In Makassar State, located in here, we divided in South Makassar Strait, also the North Makassar Strait. From the previous study, we have the high anomaly here, which is this is the north of Makassar Strait. This is here there is the impact from the Palu Koro Fault, and from the Meratus Fault I'm sorry, Meratus volcano. We can see with the negative anomaly, also the low anomaly of velocity from VV. So if the anomaly is low, like a negative anomaly is represented with the red color, this is maybe the partial melting below the volcanic. This is the basic theory from tomography, but next we will do to tomography inversion from various depths and various slices in longitude, also the latitude, so we can see what's below that area. We will do the next in our process, because this is only in the preliminary results. Thank you for your question.
Okay, so I also see the low anomaly is red, right? So it is interesting because you see the many red color in the Kalimantan, but
Yes.
unfortunately in the checkboard results the resolution is not so good, right? So not high.
Yes.
So maybe we need more data if you want to know about the Kalimantan and
yes, of course. Yes, because
thank you.
Okay.
Please.
Can I continue? Yes, because in Kalimantan, the seismicity is low, and what we can say, Alhamdulillah, maybe because there is not many earthquake like in Sulawesi. But the impact is the resolution of inversion not good like in Sulawesi. This is a little bit challenging in tomography.
Okay, thank you, Bu Maya and Ms. Harmita.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Bu Harmita and Pak Asep. Any more questions from the audience? Okay. Okay, so maybe one more question from me, Ibu Harmita.
Yes, please.
So say that we want to educate the general audience about your study with limited knowledge about this field. What can we learn in short, like in brief, from your result? For example, from this the checkered board image, yes. Can we use this, for example, to educate the people about the earthquake incident or earthquake probability incidents, or yeah, what's can we educate people from this result?
Okay, thank you for the question, Bu Maya. Maybe from the checkerboard, the good resolution of the checkerboard represent there is many repeat, which is this repeat came from the seismic wave from the earthquake. So as we can see in Sulawesi, there is a high seismicity, means there are so many earthquake happen. And let's see in our inversions. Our inversion can give us the informations. If we interpret further, we can get the information about the subduction shown, which is the subduction is give a big contribution of the earthquake. And also we can see the active fault, which is the earthquake. One of the source it came from the active fault. So maybe we can educate with maybe in North Sulawesi there is a subduction in the Philippine plate. Also in Sulawesi there's the Palu Koro active fault. We can identify in our horizontal cross sections. I think this is my answer.
Okay, interesting. Thank you so much,
Thank
Ibu
you.
Harmita, for the wonderful presentations.
Thank you.
So if there's no more question for Ibu Harmita, I think we can move on to the next presenter. So last but not least, we will have Bapak Aditya Lesmana to present his work.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. So please, Pak Aditya, you may share your own screen.
Yes, I want to share my own screen. Please. Okay, thank you for this opportunity. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon all. My name is Aditya Lesmana. I'm from Geophysical Engineering, Faculty of Mining and Petroleum Engineering, Institute Teknologi Bandung. Today, I'd like to share about my research. The title of my research is Deployment of Broadband Temporary Seismic Station around Tangkuban Parahu Volcano Complex as a preliminary result. And these are my co-author. First one is Professor Auli Priyono and Professor Andri Dianugraha as my supervisor. And then Pak Zulfakreza and Cindy Rosalia from Global Geophysics Research Group. The last, Pak Ahmad Basuki and Pak Kristianto from Center for Volcanology and Geological Hazard Mitigation. Okay, this is the outline that I will give today. Okay, sorry. I start from the introduction. Indonesia has 127 active volcanoes, the most in the world, and ranked first with the highest number of fatalities. Based on the historical record of eruption, this active volcano can divide it into three types. First, type A volcano, type B, and type C. Type A volcano, which has a historical record of eruption since 1600, and type B has a historical record of eruption before 1600, and the last type C volcano has no record eruption history, but still show trace of volcanic activity. The main object in my research is Tangkuban Parahu volcano complex. And Tangkuban Parahu is one of the active volcanoes in Indonesia, located in West Bandung Regency and Subang Regency, West Java Province. Tangkuban Parahu location can be seen in this figure. Okay. Next, this is the recorded history of the Tangkuban Parahu eruption. As we can see, starting from the eruption starting from 1829, and the last eruption occurred in 2019. If we look at the history of eruptions are dominated by phreatic eruption. Phreatic eruption occur when magma hit groundwater or surface water. The extreme temperature of magma caused the evaporation of water into steam almost instantly, resulting in explosion of steam water as a rock and volcanic bomb. And based on historical record of eruption, the Tangkuban Parahu is a type A volcano. And Tangkuban Parahu has grown as the youngest phase of the Sunda volcanoes, which was formed by the collapse of the summit of the larger and elder Sunda volcanoes. The main crater consists of Ratu crater, Upas, and Baru crater, while the Parasite crater is in the eastern part beside the main crater consisting of Domas, Badak, Jarian, Jurik, and Oro crater. The structure that developed in the peak area is a normal fault with a direction of north 340 east, where the east is to the west. There are still few studies on Tangkuban Parahu in terms of seismicity. Previous study in 2016 using infrared tomography in seismicity studies have shown the presence of low VP, high VS, and low VPVS. This is associated with product accumulation and zones of young volcanic eruption materials. He argued that in order to increase the resultant tomographic results, we need to increase the number of seismic stations. And in this study, we deploy 8 broadband temporary seismic stations around Tangkuban Parahu. This is improved from the previous study, which only used 5 single-channel seismic stations. The aim of this study is to gain a deep understanding of seismic characteristic and subsurface structure from Tangkuban Parahu volcano using ambient noise seismic tomography. Some previous study using the same method have successfully applied in several places in Indonesia. You can see, for example, Bandung Basin from Pranata 2020, and Jakarta Basin, western part of Java, Central Java, and Agung Batur volcanoes. Okay, for data, we deploy 8 broadband temporary seismic stations around Tangkuban Parahu. The distribution of location station can you see in figure 1. The red inverted triangle shows seismic station like this. We use a Trillium compact nanometric broadband sensor and LPR 2000, LPR 200 NU data recorder, and synchronize the time with GPS. Recorded data is stored on an external memory card in the form of mini-SID file, and the recording duration is 1 month between May to June 2021. The figure 2 shows documentation of the deployment of temporary station. Most of these temporary stations are located in government buildings. The consideration of the selection of this place is the safety factor. Okay. Seismic recording data are called waveforms. Each waveform consists of 3 components: a north-south component, an east-west component, and a vertical component. The vertical of the continuous waveform was used in this study. The waveform was pre-processed following the data processing flow proposed by Benson et al. This is the flow chart processing from Benson. First, record of the single data station continuous waveform as a raw data divided into 1-day segment. Then we did the data preparation for each station, including remove mean, remove trend, bandpass filter, After that, we apply time domain normalization and apply spectral weighting to reduce the earthquake signal recorded. After the single data preparation, we compute the cross correlation for daily data time series and stack the result to obtain Rayleigh wave green function between pairs of stations. The data preparation and cross correlation step, we use NoisePy module from Jiang. And in this study, we limit data processing until to the phase 2 stack. This is. And this is the data duration each station, average 28 days. There are also stations that record less than average because the battery use has been dropped. And this is an example of recording. The figure show one of the earthquake event recorded by Instead Temporary Seismic Temporary Station Network. Based on information, the probably event at that time was an earthquake that occurred in East Java province. This show that our device is recording well. And this is a histogram of distance between pair of stations. In the process of processing cross correlation data between pair of stations, 56 empirical green functions are produced. In addition to the empirical green function, other information generated from this data processing is the distance between pair stations. In the histogram, it can be seen that the distance between pair of temporary stations is in the range of 4 to 17 kilometers. And this is empirical green function result from cross correlation. This is where station TKB1 is used as virtual source and other stations are considered as receiver. From the result obtained, optimistic data processing is carried out to the next stage, namely the extraction of dispersion curve and tomography. And for the conclusion, we successfully installed 8 temporary seismic broadband seismometer stations around the Tangkuban Parahu volcano complex with a recording duration of 1 month. And the result of cross-correlation processing produced 56 empirical green functions that can be used at the next stage in the ambient seismic noise tomography methods to investigate the Tangkuban Parahu seismic structure. And the last, for the ongoing research and the future research plan, we have been installed more temporary seismic stations covering the Tangkuban Parahu volcano complex area. Okay, this is, we are grateful to the Australian National University for allowing their instrument to be used in the study, and the Center for Volcanology and Geological Hazard Mitigation for the support in the acquisition process. And this research was funded by the Program Penelitian Pengabdian kepada Masyarakat dan Inovasi, ITB 2021, and World Class University 2021 on behalf of Professor Andri Dianugraha. Okay, this is reference, and that's all from me. Thanks for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Pak Aditya Lesmana, for the wonderful presentations. Okay, so any questions from the audience? Okay, you may raise your hand for the questions. Oh, okay, Pak Asep, yes.
Thank you, Bu Maya. Mr. Aditya, so could you show us the distribution of the station?
Okay.
Could you please give us the reason why the position of each seismograph located there?
Okay, this is Pak Asep. This is a distribution of location portable station. Before to install, we perform a rapid distribution analysis. We are looking for the optimal distribution for rapid. the distribution rate is very useful in the tomographic step ladder. But the main consideration for the is safety factor. So we choose the government building for the safety factor.
So I just wonder, because there is no station around the summit of the volcanoes. In the, for example, in Kawah Ratu, Kawah Baru, so there is a station observation there. Don't you put any station near the summit?
Oh, this is primary. Actually, this is very initial step or primary study, Pak Asep. For the further, we will deploy more. We will deploy more station, more in here. We will.
Okay, I understand. So maybe later. So
yes.
You have many chance to put some station around the summit, because it's important if we have data near the summit. Thank you, Bu Maya.
Okay, thank you, Pak Asep. So my question, I'm just curious, Pak Adit. So maybe this question is very simple, but is there any specific reason why you only record for 1 month, like the duration between May to June? Do you think if you extend the recording period, you will get maybe better interpretation or other insights?
Okay. Why just 1 month? Because the battery in the recorder is just only 1 month.
Oh, okay. So there's no, okay. Okay. So no other specific reason than just the battery duration.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Right. Thank you.
May I give some comment? Maybe
yes, please.
I can help Adit for the question from Pak Asep.
Oh yes, please, Pak Andri.
Okay, actually we have been installing the seismograph station since actually October, ya Adit ya, last month, surrounding the Tangkuban Parahu and Burangrang ya volcanic system. There were about 30 stations right now in location, and then there are 5 temporary or semi-fixed stations around the Tangkuban Parahu volcano, around the Ratu crater, around the Domas, and so on. And every month we have download the data, and then we process the data, and then finally actually we will move, for example, every 14 stations each month, and then finally we can get about 70 stations around Tangkuban Parahu up to next year. So actually this is the part of Aditya Lesmana dissertation, and this is just preliminary result. At the time, just we tested the seismograph station around the volcano. We hope actually in the final, we attempt to determine the seismic velocity around the Tangkuban Parahu in order to help the interpretation of magmatic plumbing system around the Tangkuban Parahu. Of course, we have to collaborate with the geological study, maybe petrology study, and maybe Pak Asep INSAR study to see the magmatic plumbing system around the Tangkuban Parahu, because actually a few studies from the seismic velocity study previously, so we have to improve actually. That's all, Pak Asep. Maybe
yes,
my
yes,
comment.
very great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Andri. So maybe it will be good result, Pak Aditya. So you already have many stations in Tangkuban. So we will waiting for the result.
Okay,
and we will invite Pak Asep to discuss. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Andri.
Thank you so much, Professor Andri Dianugraha. Okay, I think if there's no more question, Pak Asep, maybe we can close this session. So thank you so much to all the 8 presenters that have shared their inspiring works today. So we hope that your studies will further contribute to the advancement of earth science and engineering. And we also see that some of the works presented today are in collaboration with the national agencies such as BRIN, BMKG, and the PVMBG. So we hope that all these wonderful works will further can be implemented in the futures. Okay, so maybe any closing word from Pak Asep before we take a picture together?
Yes, so I would like to congratulate for all speakers who present their research successfully today. So I feel very wonder because it's kind of professional conference actually rather than graduate student conference. So again, I wish to say congratulations for speakers and all authors for your sharing. We hope you could continue your research and obtain fruitfulness result, then publish in high impact journal. Good luck and see you again.
Okay, thank you very much.
So can we make a photo together, Bu Maya?
Yes, maybe please to all the participants to please turn on the camera and we will take a group picture. Okay. Right. So we will wait for some of the participants to turn on their camera. Okay. Okay, yes, thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Pak Asep and all. Success.
Okay. Okay. Thank you all for today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very
See
much.
you again. Thank you.